Introduction to my form of meditation. And if Patrick has posted it, there should be notes when you came in the chat room. I really didn't have time to check on that, but if you have that, if not, I'll try to send that later. Well, to start out, there's a somewhat not obvious tradition of meditation in Judaism, but you can find various examples within the Torah. Most obvious is a word called Haggah, and that is used in several places. Usually it's referred sort of as a murmur or a sigh, so probably refers to some sort of chanting of sacred verses. And it's and if you're curious about that, you can do more research. But I'm mostly concerned right now of talking about what kind of practice I do. And primarily, it's the idea of finding something you do before the practice of prayer, and it's what's most how it's used in the Jewish tradition compared to what a lot of people know as a Buddhist practice. That's usually a more sense of clearing yourself out, where in the Jewish tradition it's more of clearing yourself out for God and specifically. And the idea of is getting the sensation, and it's very much of being in the moment, being aware of being with God. And so I thought I would start out with something simple, and this is probably something we all know fairly well is the Shema prayer. And in this use of the Shema prayer is lengthening it out and using it as a way of centering yourself. So we'll start this out. Everyone else try to chant along with me. Each letter. Shin. Fire letter. Tooth. Water letter. Ayin. Open mouth. And emptiness. So it's a good way to focus our thoughts on our words, on the sounds we're making. Do this good to start out. Breathe in. Hold your breath. Exhale. This is a cycle. Breath. Feeling the breath of your soul and dissociation in the Hebrew. Each letter gives a different sensation. It's like noise. Kind of noise when like the television's left on all night. That's a hum sound. And emptiness. Really exhale the breath and this is sort of a short meditation. It's simple, but it's a good way of stopping your thoughts, calming you, centering yourself as you sit. Usually for Jewish meditation, as in other forms of meditation, it's good to sit with your spine straight so you don't fall asleep, you don't lose your focus, your head up, pointing up. Usually sitting in a chair would be good. There's no particular technique more than that in Jewish meditation. the idea of being more aware for your connection to God that you always have. Become aware as you meditate. Also, another form of meditation that I use most often, I got from Rabbi Rami Shapiro, and he he talks about it in his book where he gets this from. It's called Gerushin. It's called dispelling, and generally that is a chant. Usually, he talks about choosing various different words, commonly used words like Rabbono Shalom, which is Master of the Universe. And as I mentioned, the Shema, also Shalom. You do Shalom the way you did the Shema, each letter, focusing on the letter and the sound it makes. Also Baruch Atah, or any part of that phrase, common phrase in prayer. Also names of God, Harachamim, merciful one, Rachamim, and or Harachamam, man, one is merciful, one is compassionate. And generally, a good place to start is probably to meditate about, I'd say, 5 to 10 minutes. That's to start. I usually try to meditate about 20 minutes before I pray. So it's a good way of getting the things you've been worrying about all day and focusing on what you're intending to do, the kavanah. And that's really the basics of most meditation within the Jewish tradition. There are a lot of different forms. There's more Kabbalistic forms that are more uh, interested in names of God. A lot of Kabbalistic forms get involved with Sefirot. If you've heard of that before, there are different aspects of God, and there's a Tree of Life diagram. If you've seen that before, that is a meditation tool as well. You can use any of those, any of the 10 Sefirot on the tree, and use those as focus. Generally, the idea, the content is usually how you focus, but the intent is to be centered or become one, commune. Some people would use that word with God, and the idea is to connect. Some people use the form of just straight prayer through talking with God, expressing your frustration. That can be a form of meditation for some people use, but the general idea, as several books talk about, and I have a couple listed in the documents. You got to look at that. Just in case there's a book called Minyan by Rabbi Rami Shapiro that I use the most. Another good book is by cheat sheet, but Aryeh Kaplan has a book called Jewish Meditation, fairly simply. I have that on the list. I think that's a very good recommendation. Also, there's also good books out there. Some of them are more complicated. I think the idea is to do something simple. If you can do something simple, that's probably the best way to start. Um, Choose a phrase that, like as I was saying before, find a common word and use it as a method of focus. If you get mad, you're angry, you feel like you're out of control, say your word, whatever it is. I use Rabbono Shalom, so I'll try that and demonstrate that for a little bit. Rabbono Shalom. Rabbono Shalom. Rabbono Shalom. The best way to approach this is Focus on your breath and observe your body, your mind. And if something comes up, gets in your way, say your phrase. Just be with it and try to use a phrase regularly. Say it, every couple seconds. You're not trying to prove anything. Just generally you're trying to become calm, clear your mind, focus on the moment, just being. You don't have to get anything done. There's no race in meditation. There's no focus. You're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything right. Just breathing. And if you can get used to that, is generally what you're trying to do, is get used to being in the moment and not having to do something or achieve something. Also, another technique I use is a longer chant. And some people drum, some people play an instrument. Those sort of things. Generally, the idea is to focus on the chant. I'm going to drum a little here, and I'll use a phrase I use a lot of times. Manora hamakom hazeh. How eloquent are you? Is the place of God. The God, the place. Hamakom. Manora hamakom hazeh. 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 So generally that's closer to the kind of sensation you get when you do like a ningun. Or a wordless phrase like na 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 na, like that. There's a lot of la da 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 da. And if you're familiar with that, it's the same sort of thing. It's becoming one with with singing, with drumming, but whatever you're doing. And as you do that, you get an experiential sense of God. And that's another technique I use a lot. It's not generally something I do before prayer. Generally, I would do that something as part of prayer while singing a verse of whatever liturgy I'm doing. That's another technique. A lot of this doesn't depend a lot on what your particular ideas are. It's more of a technique for becoming closer to God, to silence your mind so you're not thinking about what's going on in your job or your relationship with your girlfriend or your wife or your husband or whoever, or your boyfriend. It's about being in the now. So a lot of this will go into other areas of Judaism. It's close to Kabbalah. A lot of Kabbalistic things also are meditative. A lot of the more traditional forms of Kabbalah will involve Hebrew letters. That's another way to meditate. That's more of becoming one with the alphabet, imagining it in your mind and using that to get away from other things that you might not want to focus on or focus away on. Hebrew letters like Yod Hey Vav Hey is a popular meditation tool. Just taking the words Yod hey, above, hey, writing it down, or getting stamps, looking at it, and focusing on that, and it's a technique to focus on something else that keeps your mind still. So, get in the chat room. Wonder if anyone has any questions about meditation that they've heard before for Jewish meditation. Have any questions? Is anyone there? Try to make this more interesting. Try to involve the video here, since this is what will be recorded. I'm not. This time I chose not to get involved a lot of theory, technique, and it's also kind of hard to read. Look at the notes. They're generally you can find probably R.E.A. Kaplan book, just called The Jewish Meditation, is it's probably the best if you're more religious and you want some answers and see how kosher meditation is within the Jewish tradition, and it's quite kosher. There's nothing really wrong with meditation. The only way it might get involved, there are some who think certain techniques might be considered not kosher if it gets involved with like Hindu or Buddhists. Some of their theology might not be fit in some traditions, but the technique of sitting and focusing is very can be considered very traditional, as if you're keeping yourself reminded that you are part of God and you're there, and that the prayer that would come after it, whatever the prayer is, the morning prayers, afternoon prayers, Mincha Mariv, and just it's not really something that you do any differently. It's more kavanah, intent, of focusing intent, so that the prayers you do say you're more aware of, even on an intellectual level. You feel the sense of the words and the relationship with the words, and your meditation will get you into a state where you're more focused on the word, not so much on yourself. Focused on God. And so that's it. It's real for me. It's a real basic thing. It's some people, it isn't their thing, and you don't really have to. But for me, it aids into the idea of prayer being part of connection with God, and recognizing that you always have a connection with God. Because if you didn't have a connection with God, you wouldn't exist. So, you know, um, right. If I don't have any questions, I'll probably end this. But be able to help if anyone ever has any questions. I want to give you my email address in the chat room. It's agammon.yahoo.com. So if you want to contact me or have any ideas for doing another workshop like this, I'm planning on doing it every 2 weeks. Normally, I'm going to try to just lead people to have a place where they can meditate, and so not have to worry about just the thoughts in their head. And it's a place to do that. So here we go. Agammon. Sorry if I seem computer illiterate. I normally am fairly knowledgeable. Just I'm on my wife's Mac because it has a camera that works. So if you have any questions or any suggestions for doing meditation, I would really appreciate that. So just to end here, I'll end with a couple of minutes of silent meditation, and I'll just do the Gershon, and I'm going to do my typical phrase, Rabono Shalom. I will start saying it out loud, and get quiet again, just for your benefit. Rabono Shalom. 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 Did is anyone's first time meditating? Any new experiences? Just curious. If you're in the chat room, let me know. Trying to give you suggestions. That really any prayer can be turned into a chant, can be turned into a Darushan or a mantra. So you can be creative and do something that works for you. Don't do it just because I said you should do it. I chose Rabono Shalom somewhat because it's traditional, and I wanted to connect to that part of the tradition. So, but any of the other ones I listed, Shema, Shalom, Baruch Atah, any of those or anything you can think of Hebrew, name of God, favorite name of God. I mean, even if you want something that's fairly obvious, quiet or one or something like that, that could be used. There's nothing really anything wrong with that. No one's going to criticize you. It's the technique and the intent of what you're doing that's important in this. So kavana is, as I said earlier, the focus. I'll be quiet for a little bit here and give you a chance to do your practice. Find your phrase. But it's about 8:30 here, so I think I'm gonna finish. If anyone has any questions, feel free to email me, and don't forget the, the fund drive that Patrick is running, trying to generate some more money. I think we're real close to getting the full, I think, $1,000. So if you have any extra money you can give, and if you can't, donate your time. Try to do workshops like this, or donate to do things for One Shul and Punctora. So focus. Try to do that. And if you can donate, please do. And thanks for being here. Shalom. And hope to see you next time. Now I'm going to stop it.